Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. David Letterman was on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and I got to tell you, I'm of mixed thoughts here. On the one hand, it felt like the old Dave, but on the other hand, I kept thinking that Dave's appearance was the kind of guest that used to drive Johnny Carson nuts, because Dave sits down and just starts doing shtick and isn't really having a real conversation. Anyway, let's listen. I've edited this down for pacing.
I love this man. I love him more than Chinese food. That's right. I love him more than valet parking. I love him more than that Cars for Kids song.
Wow, that's really good. That's a great song.
Sure, yeah. People are aware of the fact that you are the leader of the resistance. I'm going to suck up to you because I feel like if I kind of tag along with you, I'll be glorified in retrospect. My own, it's kind of like you just sit there. Now this is irrespective of party or political ideology. Irrespective, party or political ideology. If the leader of the free world is a fool, the leader of the free world then should expect and examine every bit of ridicule he receives.
Kimmel asked Letterman if he ever missed hosting late night, and Dave said, "People used to know who I am, and now I have to wear a name tag to get anything going. I'm so glad to be out from under this mess, because people like you and people like Stephen Colbert and people like Seth Meyers do such a masterful job of this, defending democracy. Thank God for you. Thank God for others, SNL and everybody else. I think it's the way things need to be in a democracy that's seemingly this crippled." Andy Dick was apparently discovered unresponsive in Hollywood on Tuesday. Reports suggested it was an apparent overdose. Photos obtained by TMZ show Andy Dick slumped over while sitting on some stairs. The Daily Mail reported that witnesses at the scene said Andy Dick's friends rushed over to him and shouted, "Wake up." Others called 911. Some others say that Andy cried out for Narcan, which is a medication that is used to halt and reverse the effects of opioid use, including in the event of an overdose. Hope all is okay with Andy Dick. Interesting Taylor Tomlinson story surfaced yesterday. Now, apparently she put out a video on November 18th. Check your calendar. This has been around, but I only first saw any whiff of this yesterday. In the November 18th video, Taylor Tomlinson said, "As you guys know, I had to move some shows because I got sick. And if you went to a few of the shows in the weeks before, you know I was sick for a little while, and unfortunately I'm still sick and dealing with that. Luckily, I have a great team and a great doctor, and I'm trying to follow their advice at the moment. As a result, I'm not going to be able to finish out these last cities on the Save Me tour. This is not an easy decision to make. It's not one I want to make." Now, this is really interesting, and maybe I'm putting two and two together and getting 17, but you may recall that After Midnight had been renewed, and then Taylor said she didn't want to do it, and then they unrenewed it, and then somebody possibly perhaps looked at late night in general and got rid of Colbert. As I've said in the past, I'm not blaming Taylor, but she may be the butterfly that flapped their wings. Anyway, Taylor Tomlin said, "I haven't been 100% for a while now. I'm really bad at prioritizing my health. And I think it's just caught up with me, and I need to prioritize that at the moment and focus on getting healthy, not just like good enough to work, which is what I usually do, and also like I don't want to keep rescheduling on you guys." She explained it doesn't feel fair to keep pushing shows weeks or months out. She's also worried that if the tour dates were postponed until after her special is released, people will think we could just watch this at home. So she says, "I just want to refund you your money. This sucks. Life happens. And this is where we're at right now. I love you and appreciate you. Thank you for understanding." She did not clarify what her illness is. And again, it's unclear to me what she means by "for a while now," if that's after the 12/30 renewal or perhaps even before. And again, I might be adding two and two and getting 17 here. Hope you're doing okay, Taylor Tomlinson. Sarah Sherman's special is out on HBO on Friday. Oh, good news. My son came home to get his new phone, and he knows I was a little frosty about the HBO thing, so he went down to the phone company store, and he was like, "Hey, Dad's not happy with this." And apparently he found a cool customer service rep who's putting the HBO back. So I'll be able to watch Sarah Sherman without having to stand out in the cold looking through someone else's window. Great news. I also get to finish The Cheer Company. I had one episode left. I mean, come on. Nylon asked Sarah Sherman, "Hey, you're on your 5th year at SNL. Wow, is it 5 years already? How you feeling about this season?" Sarah said, "I was editing the special kind of right up into going back to work, so shifting gears has been whiplashy and startling, but also kind of fun. The show has forced me to be like, hey, you actually have to write a joke. You can't just be screaming about poop all the time." And I feel like the show's made me more grounded. I know it's funny after watching that to think of anything being grounded that I ever do, but I'm in drag at work, basically. They put me in a lot of blonde wigs. I'm a normal woman who's like, hey, grandma, whatever. All right, Sarah Sherman, how do you want people to feel away walking from this special? She says, I don't even know how I want them to walk away. I want them to walk towards it. I bet people will see the poster and be like, oh, this isn't for me. This is for bisexuals in Brooklyn with gay little haircuts. But I promise there's something in it for everyone. There's jokes. There's stuff to look at. It's definitely not boring. I hope people walk away not bored. And she's reading the room. They asked her, all right, what about people that only know you from SNL? Any warnings? She said, do not eat while watching. Oh, my. I'm looking forward to this one. Michelle Wolf is on the Good One podcast. She says being on stage is like a tiny vacation. And now that she's a mom, I've become a much more efficient joke writer because I have a limited amount of time to write jokes. Now I feel like I have an actual personal life to talk about, although you do see reviews from people that are like, another comedian had a kid, now they're talking about being a parent. And it's like, yeah, you mean one of the most relatable experiences a human can have? A Good One asked her if she could have gotten where she was in her career if she'd become a mom earlier. Michelle said, as a stand-up between touring and working at night and all that stuff, it's nearly impossible to do it without an extensive support system. In order for me to go on a tour with a baby, it's a nanny, which means more flights, more hotels. You're just spending a lot more money. And earlier in my career, I wasn't making that much money. I would have been spending at least what I was making just to do the shows. So the kind of grind that you have to have in stand-up, I don't think I would have been able to do it. And even right now, I've got my eye on that private jet money at the moment. I know everyone can roll their eyes about rich people right now, but I'll tell you what, if I can travel on a jet with 2 children, I'll post my feet on OnlyFans for a little bit. The conversation changed to the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Michelle was offered it and turned it down. And she said, I didn't have to make a decision. The decision was made for me. The show they offered me was on October 4th. My due date was September 29th. So whether I wanted to do it or not really wasn't part of the question. It would have been literally impossible. Now, had it been a different time, I really would have had to weigh the pros and cons of it because they were throwing crazy money at people. And then in your head, you're like, well, maybe this opens up a whole new market for me. But I do think anything paid for by a government, that's a hard one to do. In a lot of countries like this, everything's paid for by the government. You can travel to America and do a lot of things that are not sponsored and paid for by the government. If I had decided to do the festival, I would have done jokes like the ones I've released or very similar to them. I would have been like, I got to throw at least 1 or 2 of those in there. So I think it's best for everyone that I didn't do it. But I think a lot of people like Jessica Kirson, who people got really angry with, but she said, I'll only do it if I'm allowed to be an open lesbian on stage. And they were like, okay. And I do think that's important. I think what she did was a big deal. I think it was very brave of her. There were probably a ton of people who had never heard a lesbian do comedy. And I feel bad that people got angry about that because I think she's breaking a barrier. Mike Epps got a Netflix special in January. So as we head into late January, the nominees for Best Stand-Up Special of 2026 will be either Mike Epps or Marcelo Hernandez. This special is called Delusional. It'll be out January 27th. It is Mike Epps' 5th for Netflix. In it, he discusses how a little delusion and a lot of hustle made him a star. There was a Nikki Glaser item in the news. I feel like we knew this already, but Deadline reported it like it was real, so maybe I'm just crazy. Anyway, Nikki Glaser, Fortune Feimster, and some others will join Kim Kardashian in the Netflix comedy The Fifth Wheel. The film follows a group of best friends from high school who attempt to reconnect during a weekend jaunt to Vegas when a hot outsider, Kim Kardashian, crashes the weekend. They're forced to face their messy lives, bad decisions, and unraveling friendships. Anthony Jeselnik wrote a guest piece for Vulture about books. Anthony writes, as I'm writing this piece, I have read 51 novels that were released in 2025. I choose what to read either based on the description written by the publisher or because I recognize the author's name and enjoy their previous work. For the past 5 years, I've kept a list of everything I've read and then gone back through and created a top 10 list of novels I've read from that year for social media to admire and or make fun of. This year, I've graduated to publishing my list on Vulture behind a paywall. His number 1 pick of the year is Perfection by Vincenzo Latronico, translated by Sophie Hughes. Jeselnik tells us this one is tough to describe without using some version of the word perfect. It's about a young couple of digital creatives who can work from anywhere in the world. They choose Berlin at a time when living in Berlin was the coolest thing anyone could possibly do with their youth. It's not just the only novel I read twice this year, but the only one I read in one sitting, riveted by the vivid description of a life many of us consider, but few choose to pursue. Jim Gaffigan released a clip on social media. Now, I got to be honest, I went into this cynically going, okay, he is only on social media to sell us something. But no, he didn't sell anything in this clip. The material is really strong here. If you can imagine this with a crowd, a lot of these jokes would have landed. As it is, it's just Jim talking into the camera, laying down some, I guess, extra material he needed to get out of his system. I did cut this down. The original piece, which you'll find on Jim's social media, is 1:42, which is kind of long to excerpt here, but let me give you a taste into the break.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Really? Is it the most wonderful? Have you been outside, seen the crowds, the traffic? Ever go through security in the airport in December? I'll tell you one word that doesn't come to mind. Wonderful.
Gossip Corner, whispers in the street. Gossip Corner, probably about Pete. Gossip Corner, where the rumors meet with Johnny Macking. It's always a treat.
Pete Davidson spoke to People magazine. Pete is excited about his new baby. He says he's just excited to meet this little thing. And as for a name, he explains for a while, we were like, should we do that weird Hollywood thing where it's like a color or something? And I think, nah, we're more into Staten Island normal. Among the considerations, Mikey, Johnny, Tommy, Mark, Amy, Bridget, Maggie, something like that. I miss that. Remember when you were growing up, you knew like 7 Franks? Although he says we were thinking the middle name could be a little more fun. Pete apparently is getting a Honda Odyssey. This from the Autopian, your home for comedy news. Pete said, I'm about to be a dad, so I figured it was time to drive something practical but not boring. I've always used eBay to find just about anything, like classic TV, memorabilia, and sneakers, so of course that's where I found my van, too. I used to have a Honda Odyssey. I loved it. Pete Davidson's custom Honda Odyssey includes a changing table, a power bank for the vacuum cleaner, a bottle warmer, and a refrigerator. They've also added a VHS. They found a new one on eBay, unused from 1991. A guy named Angelo delivered the custom van to Pete Davidson and asked Pete what videotape he wanted to use to test the VCR. The answer? He put in the first episode of The Sopranos in the VHS. We watched The Sopranos, joked around a ton, and we went through all the features of the van. I showed him everything. He's quite a bit taller than I am. And that is your comedy news for today. I'll see you tomorrow.